The day after Christmas, 1979, my wife Betsy struggled to a nearby shopping center to purchase a bedspread on sale for which she had waited a year. She returned home and collapsed into bed. It would be 3 months before she would shop again. For a month she lay in bed at home before being admitted to a local hospital for another month. Then she spent a third month in a special hospital in Dallas, Texas for the ecologically ill. What we learned during that third month resulted in a 2-year period of research and construction to create a unique home environment. This is the story of that home. Betsy is one of many thousands of people who suffer from ecologic illness. In short, she is allergic to much of her environment. The same chemicals that make America one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world are making thousands of people sick. Exposure to most chemicals in many foods caused Betsy to experience eczema, leg cramps, severe bowel cramps, depression, confusion, and Crohn's disease. In a month at the local hospital, she lived on intravenous fluids and was treated with antibiotics. But she was so allergic to the hospital environment and the drugs that she grew worse. Eventually, she was able to be admitted to Brookhaven Hospital in Dallas. There she entered the Environmental Control Unit, a stark, unsettling structure devoid of the typical hospital decor. There are no vinyl chairs, no newspapers, magazines, or wall hangings. 2 sets of double doors seal the unit from the rest of the hospital. Rooms are constructed of hard substances like porcelain steel, ceramic tile, and aluminum. Furniture is metal. Floors are stone or hard vinyl. Curtains are 100% cotton, and heat and air conditioning are heavily filtered. In this controlled environment, Betsy recovered completely in 3 days from bowel dysfunction, pneumonia, and blood infection without drugs. She felt healthier than she had felt in her life, and after over 10 years of constant illness, it was like a miracle. Because Betsy had been under the care of Dr. Paula Davey, an Ann Arbor clinical ecologist, we were aware of her many allergies. But this was the first time her diagnosis could be fully tested under controlled conditions. 3 weeks of skin testing, food testing, and inhalant testing in a special stainless steel booth produced a convincing demonstration of her multiple allergies. But more important was the experience of actually recovering complete health when living in a safe environment. While Betsy underwent 6 hours of testing each day, I paid a visit to Dr. William Ray, the founder of the clinic. We sat in his office suite, which was completely paneled in porcelain steel with terrazzo stone floors. What did he think we would need to do to keep Betsy healthy, I asked. He confirmed the conclusion I had come to. We needed to live in an environment free of the offending substances. By now we had a better idea of what they were: mold, natural gas, paint and varnish, plastics, and many other chemicals contained in the average home. If we could create a home living environment like the Brookhaven Environmental Control Unit, we could probably make a tremendous difference in her health. For many years, her health had steadily declined despite the many changes we had made in our old house, adding electric heat and appliances to get rid of natural gas, removing carpets, filtering the water, etc. The day she returned from the hospital, she walked into the house and could immediately tell what the problem was: the mold in the basement, paint in all the rooms we had painted the previous year, varnish on cabinets, and even 8-year-old kitchen vinyl flooring. There was only one way to go: a whole new house. Research began in earnest. What would we make the walls out of? What would the floors be? How would it be heated? How would we afford it? It quickly became apparent we would have to do most of the work ourselves because of the cost as well as the difficulty of finding contractors who could work under the limitations we imposed. I became the architect, general contractor, plumber, electrician, and all-purpose laborer. After 7 months, we had acquired a lot across the street from our old home and had broken ground. Very early, we made several basic decisions that led to the unique home we now have. First, there would be no basement so as to avoid completely the problem of preventing mold growth there. Second, the walls, floors, and ceilings would be masonry, ceramic tile, or porcelain steel. And third, the heat would be electric, and this meant the house must be energy efficient so we could afford the utility bills. These three principles led to the choice of an earth-sheltered house. Earth-sheltered houses are energy efficient and need to be built of masonry to carry the heavy earth loads. This coincided with our need for masonry and tile walls and floors. By the time we broke ground, Betsy's health had deteriorated again, and within a few weeks she was back at Brookhaven. Meanwhile, I moved to an apartment with 4 children so we could sell the old house to get money to build the new one. Although we had selected the apartment very carefully, it turned out that Betsy could not tolerate it. Within 2 weeks of returning from Brookhaven, she had moved out and was living in the basement of her doctor and longtime friend, Dr. Davy, where she lived for the next year. I continued working 40 hours a week and working on the house every evening, weekends, and vacations. Were it not for the tremendous help we received from local Christians, this would all have been completely impossible. Betsy and I are members of the Word of God, a highly committed ecumenical Christian community of 1,800 people in the Ann Arbor area. The women of the community organized a complete schedule to take care of me and the children. From 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, someone took care of the children and fixed our dinners and put the kids to bed, leaving me free to work on the house every free moment. Meanwhile, groups of men came over every Saturday to assist me on the construction, hauling sand, putting up conduit, compacting sand under the floors, and thousands of other things. Without the loving sacrifice of these Christian brothers and sisters, the whole project would have been impossible. After the footings were poured, the walls began to go up. The 3 walls that would be underground were made of 10-inch thick reinforced concrete. The front wall and the interior walls were made of concrete blocks. Later we would cement ceramic tile to most of these walls, but in the meantime they would be safe for Betsy, if not exactly pretty. The roof was made of pre-stressed concrete planks set in place with a large crane. Over this was poured a concrete cap, 3 1/2 inches thick. This provided a roof capable of supporting 350 pounds per square foot. The 18 inches of earth on the roof would weigh 180 pounds per square foot. During the winter of 1980-81, I worked inside the house installing the aluminum frame double-glazed windows. We picked aluminum frame windows so no paint would be needed on the frames. With a wood-burning stove for heat, I also worked on the plumbing and the electrical conduit to get ready for pouring the concrete floor in the spring. We ended up with 1,500 feet of conduit under the floors and in the walls of the house. Thanks to a friend from the Word of God, I quickly learned how to bend it and connect it in place. When warm weather returned, I brought in a cement contractor to pour the roof cap and the floor. Then the masons returned to complete the interior partition walls a 4-inch thick block. Meanwhile, I began the mammoth job of waterproofing the structure. Of greatest concern to me in selecting earth-sheltered construction was preventing the dampness and mold growth typical of basements. This is prevented by using high-quality waterproofing. Basements are damp for 2 reasons. 1, water penetration through cracks and holes in the walls, and 2, vapor penetration caused by capillary action. That is, moisture evaporates off the walls and by capillary action draws more moisture through the wall. But earth-sheltered homes use special waterproofing. In this case, bentonize, a substance made of bentonite clay. Bentonite clay is a natural, expansive clay that expands when wet and prevents water penetration. It is a permanent waterproofing and does not degrade with age. It is also self-sealing if a crack develops. When water penetrates to the crack, the bentonite swells up and seals the crack. So far it has worked perfectly, and our relative humidity generally stays between 40 and 50% in the house. After the waterproofing was applied, the insulation was put on. 2 inches of styrofoam on the walls and 4 inches on the roof. Earth-sheltered homes are almost always insulated on the outside in this manner. By including the concrete walls within the insulated shell, the walls become heat storage areas in the winter, and in the summer the walls stay at room temperature instead of earth temperature, which prevents condensation of the warm, moist air on the walls. For us, it also solved the problem of how to use an insulation and vapor barrier that Betsy could tolerate. By putting the insulation on the outside, no fumes from the styrofoam could enter the living environment. Then came the job of covering the house with earth and building retaining walls on either end of the house. Temporary wooden walls were eventually covered with permanent walls of broken concrete. Inside, we pressure cleaned the surface of the poured concrete walls to remove all traces of the oil, which is sprayed on the concrete forms before pouring so they will release from the wall. Then I began the work of pulling 7,000 feet of wire through all the conduit to complete the wiring of the house. Edison brought in an underground electric service and telephone line, and we soon had light. Then I tackled the kitchen. Like many ecologic patients, Betsy can tolerate formica, which is made of an extremely hard phenolic which does not outgas. Consequently, we selected kitchen cabinets of formica. Unfortunately, the interiors turned out to be made of a cheaper plastic laminate that does outgas, and which has caused minor reaction in Betsy. Eventually, we will laminate the interiors and the undersides of the counters with formica or with an aluminum foil wall covering to solve this problem. Kitchen appliances were selected with our special needs in mind. The dishwasher has a porcelain interior. The microwave oven has a stainless steel interior. Appliance doors are either porcelain or formica. The kitchen floor and walls are ceramic tile. A similar approach was taken in the bathroom. Because of the need to run a lot of pipe in the bathroom walls, they are the only walls made of wood in the entire house. Drywall is put on the studs first, and then a 3/8 inch layer of cement is put over metal lath nailed over the drywall. Then ceramic tile is bonded to this surface with cement. This is the only way to put ceramic tile over a stud wall without the use of adhesives, and is sometimes called a mud job. Walls, floors, and ceilings are covered with ceramic tile. The vanities are formica covered, and all fixtures are porcelain. By this time, the house was taking shape, and work began on the south-facing wall, the only wall still exposed. A mansard roof was constructed to provide a carefully calculated overhang above the windows. This roof juts out enough to shade the windows during the summer months when the sun is high in the sky, which keeps the house cooler. But during the winter months, the sun is lower to the horizon, and the shade line is at the top of the windows, allowing for good sun penetration. This is one of the basic principles of passive solar construction and was employed to maximize solar heat gain in the winter. Then, 2 inches of Thermax insulation was applied to the outside of the south wall. Over this went the vinyl siding. Even though Betsy is quite sensitive to vinyl, we felt it would not be a problem for her since it is on the outside of the house. This has proved to be true. The vinyl siding is not only cheaper than aluminum, but it is not vulnerable to denting and is warranted for 40 years. By Thanksgiving of 1981, after 13 months of construction, we were far enough along to clear away the debris, vacuum the floors, and have our first meal in the new house, Thanksgiving dinner with some of our friends who helped us during the year. On December 11, 1981, the city inspector gave us a certificate of occupancy, and we moved in on December 12th, in time to get settled enough to celebrate Christmas in our new home. The walls were still bare concrete block, and the floors were bare concrete, but it was home to us. For the first time in a year, the family was back together again. Since moving in, the work goes on. Ceramic tile has been laid on most of the floors with cement. We used a Portland cement type sanded grout that contains no latex or epoxy. Similar tiles will soon be added to the walls in the same manner. The house has 4 bedrooms on the south wall, so each has windows. The master bedroom has 2 parts. The sleeping area is just large enough for a bed and end tables and can be closed off from the dressing room where clothes are stored. This keeps Betsy's sleeping area as clean as possible and free of fumes from shoes and clothing. We also use an ionizer in the bedroom. Vacuuming is done with a built-in central vacuum cleaner. This has the advantage of exhausting to the outside so that the minute dust particles that usually get blown around the house are blown outside instead. The heating system is a carrier heat pump with all metal ducts. Before the ducts were installed, we took them all to a car wash and pressure cleaned them of all the oil residue on the metal. Eventually, we will probably add activated charcoal air filters into the heating system too. So, that is our new house. Already it has improved Betsy's health. When we moved in, she was taking pain medication every 3 hours, day and night, just to function. Within a month, she was off all her pain medication. Each month, her health seems to improve. While there are more things to be done on the house, it has accomplished its primary purpose, a safe environment in which to live. One of these days there will be grass, even on the roof, and other landscaping, and lovely interior walls to cover the drab gray concrete. But for our family, this is just cosmetic. We find that clean is what's beautiful.
The stillness of the night, there comes a time to understand, to reach out and touch tomorrow, take the future in our hand. We can see a new horizon built on all that we have done, and our dreams